Tēnā koutou katoa. Imposter Syndrome has been the theme of the week as we head into next week. The next 4-week online course starts on Monday, so I'm looking forward to that. And for those of you that registered, it's now fully booked and sold out. And this week I've been fortunate enough to be with the team at Sharesies in Wellington to talk to them about Imposter Syndrome. And it's a topic that keeps coming back and is always popular because it impacts so many of us. And we know that if it's left unchecked, it impacts the way we feel, the choices that we make, the mindsets that we find ourselves in, the opportunities we either take or miss. And so it's something that I've been devoted to helping, especially women, with. And one of the things I want to talk about today, though, is that imposter syndrome isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all. There are actually 5 categories within imposter syndrome, and if you've been to one of my workshops, you'll probably know what they are. I'm going to explain them quickly now, and you can tell me which one resonates for you. So these 5 categories were designated by a lady called Dr. Valerie Young. She's an American. She wrote the book Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. And that's where these categories come from. Now, the first one is one we all know well. That is the perfectionist. Perfectionists, quite often perfectionism is linked with imposter syndrome because of this drive to prove ourselves. So if we fear being found out, of course, perfection is the other end of the extreme. We feel we need to get everything perfect in order not to get found out. And that's often how imposter syndrome drives perfectionism. And it's very common. And I always say done is often better than perfect, because when we strive for perfection, it's not always achievable. And we so often burn ourselves out as a result. So perfectionism is one category. Natural genius is the next. Now, these people have a high IQ, and success has generally been effortless. So if you think back to the kids at school that got A's without really trying and were always top of the class, this is how imposter syndrome manifests for them, because generally if you come top of the class and you're used to success being effortless, when it's not, and when you have to try hard, or you don't get something right the first time, or you get in a top university and all of a sudden you're surrounded by other people that are top of the class and you can't all be top of the class, that's the breeding ground for your imposterism. And then the next category is expert. So number 3, expert, similar, high IQ. But the thing with an expert is you never have enough knowledge. You always want to know all the answers. And the breeding ground for your imposterism will be not knowing the answers. As experts, we're not comfortable not knowing. So these people will often say things to you like, I'm going to go for a promotion or take on a new challenge at work, so I need to do some more papers, go back to uni, do a course, read some books. There's this power in knowledge helping us not get found out. But of course, the opposite of that is if we don't know all the answers, which we never do, that's a breeding ground for our imposterism. And then one that's always resonated well for me, the soloist, or often called an individualist. These are people who believe success is only real if they've done it all by themselves. So as a soloist, if you've had to delegate, ask for help, or you've worked in a team to achieve something, we struggle to admit that it's really our success. And of course, our imposter syndrome will tell us, unless you can do it all by yourself, it's not real and people are going to find you out. And that, of course, also drives us to overwork and to burn out. It makes us reluctant to delegate and to outsource and to ask for help when, of course, we often need that in order to get the job done. And the final 5th category is the superhero category, and this is someone that has a foot in all of those camps. So it's not uncommon for us to identify with more than one of those categories within imposter syndrome. And if you do, the chances are you fall into the superhero category, which is the quality of a perfectionist, but it's also about quantity. So it's having all of the balls in the air and juggling them masterfully and perfectly, and we know how that ends. So they're the 5 categories that exist within imposter syndrome. Drop me a comment, let me know which one resonates for you. Certainly the soloist resonates for me, and I am also a recovering perfectionist. You'll find that a lot of these are often linked, so there might be more than one that resonates for you. It's also something I'm going to go into more depth about in the workshops that are coming up. So I've just announced today a date in Auckland as well as Wellington. It's been a long time with COVID and travel difficulties and cancellations. In person, I'm really excited because it's been a while. So in person next month in both Auckland and Wellington. And this is the longer format of any imposter syndrome workshop I've ever done publicly. So it includes all of this stuff. We'll take a dive into those 5 categories, and we will also look at some of the mindset behind imposter syndrome, because the bottom line is, if we want to stop feeling like an imposter, we have to stop thinking like one. So how do we rewire our brain? How do we silence that inner critic? And what can we do to overcome these feelings of self-doubt that so often hold us back? So I'll pop a link in this live for those workshops. They're on the events page of the workshop. There are early bird discounts available for them for next week for both of those, so get in quick. There's only 10 places on each, both Auckland and Wellington. And for those of you that are taking the 4-week course that starts next week, that's now sold out, but those of you that did get in and book a place, I'm looking forward to connecting with you and sharing more of this with you as well. I hope whatever you've done this week, you've had a fabulous week, and have a great weekend. Mā te wā.